Welcome everybody to another episode of the In the Paint Show presented by Ballislife. Ronnie Flores here with my co-hosts Chelsea Hopkins and Umana. How are you guys doing? What's going on, you guys? I know we have a lot to talk about today, so we're going to try to stay on task and hit some hard-hitting points. We've been going kind of soft. I don't know about calling it In the Paint no more. We might have to call it On the Perimeter because we're just kind of like shooting three and hanging out. Like, we really got to go in the paint today. So we'll have a good time, and we're going to, like I said, we're going to hit a lot of topics, some serious and some not so serious. So how's everything going, guys?
Pretty good. Good morning. Happy Monday. Happy to be here. Yes, we have lots to talk about. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's talk about, I guess we'll start. Let's talk about some other things that, with Ballislife going on. We had another street ball game this past week, so that was good. We also have a clearance sale going on at shop.ballislife.com. I know we do this toward the end of the show. I just want to get it out of the way for the people that listen at the beginning. We have a clearance sale going on, and we're making some room for the new lines dropping at the end of the month. 33% off some items, some backpacks, triangle socks that are popular. So free shipping on all the U.S. orders at shop.ballislife.com. If you're listening to the podcast, let me slow down. It's PAINT15. It's a one-time discount code. Again, that's PAINT15. Free shipping in the U.S. Like I said, we have a lot of great items, so check that out. Also wanted to give a shout-out to the other podcasts, Noble and Rouge, Unapologetic, The Retro Room, It's in the Game, Buckets and Breakdowns. Those guys do a great job, so shout-out to those guys. But let's get to our topics. Obviously, there were supposed to be two great Game 7s. Everybody loves Game 7. And then, Ani, it was kind of a dud.
Oh, no, it was fantastic. The best player in the NBA just showed himself.
Who's the best player?
Luka Doncic.
Oh, my God.
The best player in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
Honey, we just said last episode that Giannis, or even 2 episodes that Giannis was it. But
I have a short time.
Luka is incredible. Oh, my God.
So you're in Texas, so you're on the Texas gravy train with the Dallas Mavericks.
Super biased, of course.
Biased.
Very.
But, we said, Giannis, it's that series. I'm just let's get rid of this replay. If everything's just going to be a bang, bang, charge block, that's what that series came down to. I felt like, I was like, if Giannis has early fouls, the Celtics are not even going to play D. They're just going to flop, and that's what, he didn't, and they didn't shoot well. Obviously, the difference was the shooting. I mean, when they hit that many 3-pointers, they were 22 of 55. Any team that shoots 22 of 55 and the other team shoots 4 of 33.
It's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to beat if you don't hit some shots. And then, Chelsea, what did you think about, or Nana, you could jump into them going big? They kind of use Bobby Portis and Lopez a lot at the same time, and then they can't cover the three. Yeah,
they couldn't get out, on the perimeter. It was they were big, but they were slow. The game was just going way too fast. It definitely went in the Celtics' favor. And obviously it was close in the first half, but then in the third quarter, the Celtics just blew the game wide open. And it was kind of over from there. I didn't really like the adjustments on Milwaukee's part. When shots aren't falling, I'm not saying don't shoot. Obviously, you got to shoot open shots, but you guys just kept shooting and nobody's making anything. So it's at what point are we going to do something else? And I do agree that the flopping on both sides was just too much. I love Marcus Smart to death, but my goodness. For every good stop he makes, he has a flop or something. So
you can't talk too bad about Marcus Smart. Ani's gonna go crazy. There's another Texas guy.
Fly around Texas.
Ani, what do you think? Tell me what you think.
Oh no, I'm in agreement with you. This Marcus Smart flops.
Okay,
a lot, and just unnecessarily.
And it's a dramatic flop, but it's just dramatic.
He went to the school like Chris Paul, but even did more than Chris Paul be doing. He just be flopping. It's hard. It's a hard flop. I don't know. I think, like you said, Chelsea, Milwaukee going big offensively. I kind of get it, because Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez can extend out and shoot threes, but when they're not making shots and they're not really giving you anything in the paint either, then when you go to the other end, you're screwed because they're just going to put you on ball screens and then they're just going to really attack you. I mean, Grant Williams was really shooting the ball last game, but he's a mismatch problem. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I mean, Marcus Smart, Al Horford really came on this. Just Celtics is so hard to stop. And then obviously they're really hard to score on. And I don't think going big is the answer unless your bigs are really just killing theirs, but that's hard. And then Robert Williams just came back for game 7. So, I mean, you add another piece to there. Chris Middleton not being there hurts.
Absolutely.
The argument could be said if he was there, does Milwaukee win? Maybe. I don't know. I thought some of Milwaukee's struggles go beyond if Chris Middleton was there or not. And I just think Boston just really outplayed Milwaukee. I thought Milwaukee's best chance was to win in game 6. When they didn't win game 6, it was a wrap.
Yeah, I give them a lot of credit. Chelsea nailed it a couple of weeks ago. You thought Boston was just a better team. You're like, they're more talented. Maybe they won't win because Giannis is just going to go nuts, and he still went nuts.
Right.
And you kind of mentioned that, so kudos to you on that. I just thought when Marcus Smart had his series of mishaps and Holiday came up with that block shot in game 5, I was like, they're not going to be able to recover from that mentally. But they did. They did a good job. And then Payton had the big game, obviously, in game 6 that kind of.
Yeah, they were just more complete as a team, and sometimes you can be a more complete team and lose a game. But like I told you, if Giannis has to get 44 every single night and you never know if somebody's going to do, it's just not sustainable. And I don't think it's sustainable, just period. Okay, they would have got out of this series. Then, okay, you meet, you're going to eventually, Miami, then you're going to meet the Warriors or who, it's just no, it's not sustainable.
Gotcha. Yeah, because we're talking about how he played in Ani. I mean, dude. 25 points. He still had 25 points, 20 rebounds, 9 assists, and Ani's like, Luka. Like,
let's play in the league.
Dude, he had 50 assists, 100 rebounds, and 200 points. What else can that guy do? I mean, he didn't shoot very well, but he still made a huge impact. And when we talk about impact, let's jump over to the other series that went game 7. There was really no impact from Devin Booker and Chris Paul. No impact at all. And I talked to Chelsea about that last week. I was kind of mentioning, I was kind of giving the PG-13 version, and I'll just give the more rated R version. It's like when you see when you have a player like Paul and he's aging, I don't know if you guys saw what Pat Beverly said today. Now, I think Pat Beverly's going on there and just having some grudges, but what he's saying is it's true.
No, but there's truth to stuff that he said.
Right.
There's truth. When I saw Brunson and Paul was on him, his eyes light up like, oh, I'm going to take dude. I know I'm going to. Now, he didn't get a foul on a couple. There was one bad play where Chris Paul kind of raked him and hit him in the face. And
oh, yeah.
It's but that's because dudes know they can attack him.
Yeah.
And then on the other end, he's not that dominant. Meaning you're like, oh, damn. Like we talked about Giannis or even Luka to that extent. There's nothing you could do when they're on. You have certain matchup problems that are going to be bad. They're going to exploit it. I can find a dude who can guard Chris Paul. It's the bottom line. I can find a dude who can stay in front of him a bit, just enough to slow him down and make him miss a shot, or then don't get caught up in the tripping and the holding and the just straight up basketball. And it's true. I mean, what Pat Beverly I think is saying is true, even though I wouldn't necessarily want Aaron necessarily say it all like that. So what do you guys think about that? I mean, you got to show up. That's what I'm saying. If you're small, you have to be dominant in something, whether it's shooting, something that has to be the dominate trait, and they just didn't do it. They just fell apart.
Yeah, I agree with your. You can find someone to guard Chris Paul. Dallas found 3: Frank Ntilikina, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Reggie Bullock. Just a real shell of himself. It was weird. I mean, I'm a huge Mad fan, but it got to 40 points, and I'm cheering on the Suns. I'm like, yo, come on, shooter. Y'all make a 3, please.
Somebody score.
For the beat y'all, but I don't want y'all to lose by 50, like this. But Paul's just not himself. I mean, that was the first time I've ever seen a series where people really went to attack Chris Paul, especially in the post and stuff like that. You had Luka that was fishing for that, Jalen Brunson, Spencer Dinwiddie too. So I mean, you have multiple guys that are really just trying to attack Chris Paul. And I don't think we've ever seen that, and that wore him out. After the game 6, he made a comment. He said, "Man, I'm just happy. We have an extra day off." you know, that tells you where he was at. Like he was
not a good statement.
no.
Yeah.
And Devin Booker, I mean, isn't it crazy? Because he was 4th in MVP voting ahead of Luka. And yeah, I mean that just nuts. Devin Booker was a no-show.
Yeah. So what's his problem? Chelsea, what's Devin Booker's problem? A little too one-dimensional, doesn't move out the ball, doesn't go off the dribble. What? Something there is not, you know, to be one of the best players in the league, you got to be complete. So what's his problem?
I think, you know, obviously he needed Chris Paul for, you know, the Suns to have the success that they've had, but I just haven't really seen him take the leap. And I'm going to give you a comparison. I look at Jason Tatum and I'm like, this man has improved as a playmaker, as a passer. He's making the right reads. Like Devin Booker and Jason Tatum were very similar in the fact that they were just prolific elite scorers, you know, coming into the league. But in order to be great, you have to make that next jump. And I just haven't really seen that from Devin Booker. And I think Chris Paul obviously made his life a lot easier. We saw him have, you know, some flashes and some great games, but I think that's the next step for him. And I don't see Chris Paul, you know, being able to play much longer. I think Ani hit the nail on the head, just with him just kind of being a shell of himself. And I think that goes back to what we talked about with Giannis. Like Chris Paul, it's sustainability. Chris Paul gave us a good game, and then he had three bad ones. He couldn't get up like he would have, you know, been able to if he was younger. And unfortunately, Father Time is undefeated. And, you know, we see people that are able to do incredible things at certain ages and stuff like that. But the reality is, like, the league is young. You know, the players are more athletic. Like, being old, you can be as smart and calculated as you want to be. And Chris Paul is, you know, at the top of the top when it comes to knowing the game and basketball IQ. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to move those feet. And when people know you're a liability, you know, their eyes light up too. And that's what we saw with Chris Paul. I just saw him fatigued mentally, physically, and he just didn't have any more to give. And I think that, you know, the writing on the wall for him is, you know, coming pretty soon. I don't really know how many more seasons he'll be able to get. It definitely not at the money that he makes. And for Devin Booker, it's just, you got to make that next leap. And to be more complete, you know, I need to see him improve his playmaking ability, his passing ability, you know, his ability to get other people involved. And that's why I have Luka above Devin Booker. Because Luka, who I know he's not number one, but Luka has, even though we can see Luka be selfish at times, because there are times where I'm like, okay, Luka, come off the ball. You are dribbling the air out of the ball. But he has the ability to make people better, to make those plays that, you know, can ultimately translate into winning. And they just jumped on the Suns. It was crazy. Like, I cannot believe what happened. Like, and Chris Paul didn't even score till they were like down like 35.
Yeah.
It was bad. The Mavs deserve it. I give Luka the nod over Devin Booker as of today.
I think Devin Booker's problem, I don't think he's tough enough to really lead. You know, there's a point in that game where you see the greats, like you've seen Tatum, even in that Milwaukee series. Like when they need a bucket, he went and got a bucket. When you look at those next tier superstars, even Luka, as young as he is, like he knows when he needs to score, like, and he's going to score. You know, obviously I'm not comparing Devin Booker to these guys, but you look at the Kobe's, you look at Kawhi, you look at KD and like Steph, like those guys just, you know, they're not going to lose by 33 in Game 7.
Yeah,
you know, especially if you're talking about that tier of a player. Obviously, KD got swept, but you know they were in it. And I felt like when KD needed a bucket, he went and got one. I thought Devin Booker these past couple games just couldn't do it. I think when everything's going good, Devin Booker's good. But when there's some adversity hitting, I don't think Devin Booker, he's not the guy you go to. All right, I need a bucket. You're right about the playmaking part, but I just think like as a superstar, like your team's getting their ass busted. Like I mean at home, and you don't make a field goal till the third quarter.
Yeah.
And then to me, it's like I don't think Devin Booker. He doesn't have, I don't want to say the balls, but he's just not tough enough. I don't think he's not the superstar that, hey, look, you know, just get on my back. I'm gonna lead us. He's not that guy. Like
Yeah.
He's a good secondary piece. Now he can become that guy. I mean, he needs some time. But I saw Tatum in a lot of times in the Milwaukee series where Milwaukee you thought were just going to run away with it or come back, and then Tatum just comes in, makes a three, hits a pull of midi. He just there's the big difference. Devin Booker's not doing that. And that's what Chris Paul's advantage was. That's why Chris Paul came in the fourth quarter and get 20 points in the fourth quarter. Because Devin Booker just right now is not built to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you guys there. I thought besides the flopping and the going to the scores table to check the replays, which I think just get rid of them if they're not to check on the lines or to check if that's a 2 or 3. Just get rid of it because it's still a judgment call. They still got it wrong. Like, okay, Chelsea mentioned that she thought it was a foul on the Marcus Smart play at the end of the game where Jaylen Brown drove and kicked it to him and he didn't get the 3-point shot and he got the ball out of bounds. That was a big moment. They could have won that game. And then in this game, Giannis loses the ball at half near
and Marcus Smart throws it up and it's 3 free throws.
Throws a dumb, like obviously it's the end of the quarter, so you just bleed. 3 shots. What I mean, get rid of that then. You guys can't call it straight. Like that was just junk. That was a junk play. So Giannis loses the ball. He puts his hand in there. I'm not even sure it was a foul. He just had his hand on top.
No, it was a foul.
Right.
But it's just the reviews are just excessive and they take too long.
Yes.
Like, my goodness, you're reviewing it for 8 minutes. The quarter is over. Like, let's just play. It's too much.
But then those 3 points were big because that gave Milwaukee
It did.
They were down
6
5
points at half or something.
That was it was a 1-possession game until that play, and then the third quarter just blew the door open on that. So we're not going to spend too much time on that. We know what happened. Everybody watched it. It was a little disappointing in terms of we thought it was going to be 2 great games. Obviously, in the other series, the Heat beat the Sixers 4-2. Warriors got by the Grizz 4-2. I guess the only question I have for you guys on those 2 series really is James Harden. Where does he go from here? Is it revamp your body, get right, work hard in the offseason, or is he lost a step and now he's just going to be back with the pack and he's not an elite player in the league?
You got this one on here.
Yeah, I'll take this one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he needs to get his body right. I think the rules changes, where, guys like Dame Lillard, Trae Young got a little affected by it, but James Harden just what they would deem a foul. Has really messed up Harden this season. His numbers were kind of down, shooting numbers were down. The amount of times he went to the free throw line was down. I think we're starting to see a little bit of James Harden declining some, but I also think he has not adapted to how the rules have changed, where he's not going to get to the foul line 20 times like he used to. They're not going to give him those type of things. And honestly, like, he's a worker. He got to the point, like, I think he's going to work at it and get better. But I don't think we're looking at. I mean, Embiid said it was a cold statement. We're not seeing Houston Rockets James Harden anymore. So what does that look like? Can he still be the second guy on the championship team? Maybe, probably not. Probably needs to be your third guy, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, I just think we're seeing a slow decline of him. I mean, he's still going to put us some good box score stats, but sure. I don't think he's a guy that. Embiid was out and he looked so bad this series, and then he looked so bad, and then when he got back, he had that 31-point game, which was solid, but I just think he's starting to decline. And I think he cannot adapt to I think the rule change has affected him more than really anybody in the league.
Wow. What do you think, Chelsea?
Ani, I mean, you were a little nice. Let's just be honest. James Harden is who he is. He's never got his body in shape. He's never been super, I'm going to work hard and, keep my body up to par. I'm not saying he doesn't work on his game because obviously he's incredible. But, James Harden, takes a while to get in shape. He's going to go to the strip club. He's going to eat his chicken wings. He's going to hang out. He's going to do all the stuff that he does. And I just don't foresee that changing. Like, I just don't see it changing. I don't think that he's a guy anymore. I think that as you get older, it's even harder to get your body in shape. Like, I experienced that as a professional. So if you weren't doing it when you were young and it was easy and you can go eat cinnamon rolls and then still wake up the next day and play a game, I don't see that you're going to be able to do it now as you just get older. So I think that the rule change has absolutely affected him. I also think that there's a little stigma because sometimes James Harden actually gets fouled and they just don't call it anymore because it's like, no, it's James and we're not. Because I actually watched these in slow-mo and replay, and I'm like, okay, like that was a foul, but they're like, no, it's James. We're not calling those anymore. So one, he's a step slower. Two, he will not adapt to the rules because he doesn't really have the athleticism and the body to really do so. And three, he will get fouled, but we're not going to call it. And four, he's just, like you said, a third guy on a good team at best. I was extremely disappointed with his passiveness and his lack of aggression. Like, I didn't understand that. Like, you shot the ball 2 times, like, and I pay you $40 million or whatever I pay. Like, that's unacceptable. I'm not extending him a max contract ever again. So those days are done. And you have to put a lot of pieces around him. I think he still has ability as a playmaker. Like you said, Ani, he's going to have games where he's still able to get a triple-double. But it's not going to be a 40-point triple-double. It's going to be 18, 10, 10, 5 turnovers, give Embiid the ball, and have him bring it home for us, kind of, James. And that's just who he is. And Embiid was absolutely right. And I hope that, Doc Rivers, they said that he's going to stay on as coach, that he can put some pieces, together and hopefully give Embiid a chance. But Tyrese Maxey's the number 2 now.
100%.
And that's just how it is.
Yeah. Wow. You guys are going pretty much in on him. I mean, I've known James for a long time and his family. So, I mean, you hope if he gets in better physical shape, you hope that helps him rekindle and get, some motivation. Obviously, he can have a great season here and there, but like you said, he's not going to be at the MVP level. And again, getting those foul calls from behind where he's flopping and flailing, like those are like pretty much over. So
but I'm just saying, look at people that do take care of their bodies and how hard it is.
Correct.
Like, it's just hard. So I'm saying, like, I know that James works on his game. You can't dispute that. He's an incredible talent. The things that he used to do had him, in the top 5 or the NBA for a long time with, the way that he had the ability to play. But I just don't see it. I don't see somebody becoming something that they've never been their entire NBA career.
Yeah,
that's a good point. I think he's a third option. I think he's a third option. And really, you're Philly. You probably want to find somebody like, and defensively, he's horrible too. Which to me, he's just not very good because of he was never a good defender.
Yeah,
so his body not being good doesn't even help that either. And he's getting older. Yeah, if I'm Philly, I'm.
But what's even the third?
Now, my thing is, I don't think Philly can win a championship. Even I don't think they can win a championship. Even if Maxey's going to have to be a 25-point per game guy. If Philly has a chance, he's really good, and he can be.
Good. And honestly, let's be truthful. Tobias Harris was the third. This last series, he was terrible. He had one good game. He was not good at all. Like, he really was like the fourth and. Maybe even worse, the last game that they played. Like, he could have been the 8th man at that point. Like, he didn't even have to really be out there. Just running around and making the teams even.
I just hope we're reach an era in the NBA where we get back to a little bit more the team ball, the good team defense. It seems like we are with Boston, Milwaukee, whereas like teams try to win a championship with let's give the ball to James Harden and let him roll out with Houston. A few other teams did that with their max guy, and it didn't work. It's like it's not working. That ISO ball, dribble it 9 times and shoot it, and then hope you get a foul when you drive. Like, I hope we get away from that. Seems like we are. It's like the games are better, the series are better in the playoffs, and like just the whole ball's better. So
and Ronnie, sorry, real quick, but just look at the teams that are left though. Teams that actually guard Miami.
Right.
Yeah.
With the exception of Mavs, which you can actually guard in spurts though. Like, I think they're the worst defensive team of the teams that are left. Yeah. You have Miami.
I think they're third. They're third.
Okay. Are they better? Miami, Ani?
No, Miami.
Boston?
Miami and Boston better. They're better.
Warriors?
They're better than Golden State.
Warriors?
I think they're better. They're better than Golden State.
The Mavs are for sure last of all.
No. They're third.
Okay, all right. Whatever. They're not at the top, Ronnie. That's my point. And
we'll see Wednesday. We'll see this week. This week gonna be a big week.
And I'm going to game 1 and 2 live.
So Mavs and 5.
Giving you guys live reports of what's happening. And the Golden State Warriors, if they can play defense and cut the turnovers, because my goodness, they're turning the ball over at the highest rate I think I've ever seen. then they're gonna win the series, Ani, in 6 games.
Mavs in 5.
Okay.
They have no one that can guard Luka. We match up well.
That's
with
true.
them.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah. So, speaking of that, let's talk about those series, and we'll transition here. Want to let people know that on that Tuesday is when the series starts for Miami, Boston, and then on Wednesday, like you said, Chelsea, at Golden State, Dallas. And I know you two will be watching those 2 series very closely. Let's talk about the NBA draft lottery. That happens on Tuesday before Miami, Boston. Put you on the spot a little bit, Ani. Is there a clear number 1 pick? We're going to start talking about the draft as we transition to the off season, or does it have to see what the order is, need and fit, or is there a guy you're going to take no matter who gets the wins this lottery upcoming and gets the number 1 pick?
I think Jabari Walker has the lead on that. I don't know if it's as clear cut as when you had a Zion Williamson or some of those guys as in the draft. But I think Jabari Walker is your number 1, regardless of kind of what the order looks like. Obviously, if you're there's no really team. I mean, there's some teams that need some front court depth. Maybe you go Chet Holmgren, but when you look at guys like Jabari Smith, guys that Smith. I said Walker, my bad.
Yeah, Smith.
Yeah, Jabari Smith. When you get guys like 6'10", can shoot it, switchable defender. When you look at the playoffs, I mean, guys like him thrive. You need guys that are built like him to win playoff series. Mm-hmm. Paolo, I think, is probably a little bit more ready, you could say, just with his body. He's like a mismatch problem, especially in the mid post. But I would probably have him 2, then Chet Holmgren 3. Chet has a lot of upside with him. I mean, you see some boards where they have Chet 1 or Paolo 1. I had Jabari number 1. I just think he can be your second, third, and even potentially be your number 1 guy, just with his size and his offensive ability. And I think out of the 3, I think he's the best switchable defender out of the 3. Which is what this is all about. When you look at, Chelsea talks about small ball, when you look at Boston, those guys there's no 7-footer, there's no 7'1" guy just camping in the paint. You look at Dallas, where Dwight Powell's your center, your starting center. You look at Golden State, where, Kevon Looney's your center. You don't need a footer to be successful. You need guys, big wings, big guys that can move and defend and can shoot and make shots. And that, to me, is why Jabari Smith, to me, is kind of in the lead of number 1, but it wouldn't surprise me you saw Paolo go 1, but it's not a clear-cut 1.
And then, Chelsea, on your end, if you had a pick, and even if he wasn't, would you just pick the guy you wanted, one of those 3 guys or somebody else, or would you just take the safe pick and pick the guy you think that had the most value? Or you're like, no, I like Paolo, I don't care, I'll trade down to number 2 and get him? What are you with Ani on that?
I agree with a lot of the stuff that Ani said, but I'm just about drafting the best fit for what my team needs. Okay. And you talk about just who's picking, we're figuring it out, but those are the teams to me that have the most success. Unless there is just a Zion, because I mean, you just have to take them. You have that in that case, everything's out. Scratch that. I got to take the best player in the draft because he's head and shoulders better than everybody else. But just as Ani said, it can go either way. It's kind of close. Paolo, Chet, I think it's going to come down to who's picking and what the team needs the most. So I don't have a clear-cut favorite. I don't even really have a prediction of who I think will go number 1. I think it just depends on who's picking. So
gotcha.
We'll see.
So we'll see on Tuesday. That'll tell us a lot more of if a team that barely missed the playoffs moves up in the lottery, like it sometimes happens. And then everybody says it's rigged. It's rigged. That's gonna come. Yeah, it's rigged. Oh, they're Cavs. It's rigged for the Cavs and whatever other team people like. But for me, I'm more if you have balls and you know what you're doing, get the guy you want. That was even if he's not if you have the number 1 pick. And I know it's sometimes hard because it could be because of cap considerations, salaries and things like that, who you have to cut, who you have to bring on. But that's the problem I thought what happened with the Lakers. If the Lakers liked Lonzo Ball so much, why didn't you trade down? And you still could have got him at 4 or 5 and got another asset. Or did you just not think you just missed on Jason Tatum and didn't realize he was that good? That's okay too, but Lonzo Ball wasn't the number 2 pick.
For sure.
That was my point of the whole thing.
I agree.
You panicked and grabbed a number 2 because you're like, that's the guy we want. But if that's the guy you want, get him at the pick he's supposed to be at. So we'll see if any team can do that. I know that's not that easy, but that's what I would have done. Even I said it then. I was like, he's not the number 2 pick. He's a great player, but he's not the number 2 pick. I didn't know Jason Tatum was going to be this good. Really, I didn't know Jason Tatum was going to be this good. But that's a mistake too. So then we talk about the Lakers, and it's like people are like, oh, they should have kept Jason Kidd. There's a million things they could have done, you know. And I'm not sure, you know, they won the bubble championship, but you know, a lot of people are now saying, look what Jason Kidd is doing. You know, you let that go, and they've made some other bad choices. So we can talk about that all day long, really. But let's jump into something else, a little bit more serious. We got some updates on Brittney Griner, Chelsea. Even last weekend, the WNBA's Player Association kind of called out the White House really to do what is necessary to bring her home. You know, what did you see there? And, you know, obviously you mentioned it, you hit it a nail on the head about a month ago. It's like they're holding her for some kind of collateral and political purposes. So, you know, it's just kind of an odd situation, and it's heartbreaking, but it's now we're going on 4 months. So
yeah, for me, just, you know, it was devastating just to see that picture. They have a picture circulating of her, hoodie on, head down. Obviously she looks okay, but you can obviously tell she is kind of, you know, defeated by this whole, you know, process. They extended her for 30 days, which means at the end of that extension, she will have been, you know, retained for 115 days. Like, so it's just kind of like unfathomable when you like process it all. I'm glad that, you know, U.S. government finally came out and said, hey, she was wrongfully detained. And, you know, I'm starting to see a little bit more urgency, but, you know, even to see the urgency now, you know, 90 days later, it's just sad. So now I'm hearing they want to do a swap. We have a Russian prisoner, arms trafficker, whatever, that, you know, they want to get back. So it's totally a political, she's being used as a political pawn. And for the first time, like when I saw her, I also just felt like, I don't think that this is going to end soon. And I didn't feel that way at the beginning. Sure. Like, I pray that I'm wrong, but it's like, I'm praying that this doesn't turn into a couple years, which I know is even like hard to say, but I really don't see this ending as swiftly as everybody wants it to, even though it's getting the attention now, because it already kind of is what it is. Like, you know, I just don't see it. So I pray for this situation, you know, often, because I just couldn't imagine, and just her being a fellow, you know, basketball player, and just the community being small. Like, I've met Brittney several times. I've been around her. Like, you know, I just can't, I don't really see, you know, anything positive coming from this soon. And I pray that I'm wrong, but I'm scared. I'm scared for her. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully the government is able to do something. But, you know, we have a policy generally that we don't negotiate on a lot of stuff. So I'm not saying we're not willing to, you know, swap somebody out for her, but, you know, we don't usually negotiate with terrorists and give them their demands. We don't, you know, give in to these other countries when they say we want this, this, and this. The U.S. doesn't usually say okay, and at least not openly. Like, you know, maybe behind closed doors, they may get something done, but now this is public. So everybody's going to be watching what the government's doing, if they do anything at all. And I feel scared, and I feel sad at the outcome. I don't think it's going to be done swiftly. I just don't.
Yeah, I'm with Chelsea. I don't know how long it's going to be. I don't think it's 30 days and she's out, unfortunately. Like, you pray, you know, pray that it ends soon. But you look at how the U.S., how we always operate, like, we're not negotiating like that. And it's going to take time. Like, it's not going to be okay. Like, they brought up maybe a swap, right? That swap's going to be could be brought up a year from now. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not something that we're immediately going to do. Right. And you just hate to see, like, the picture with her with her head down and stuff like that. I mean, that was just heartbreaking, because you're like, damn, like,
it's a real
it's real, you know. And then you're talking about, like, they're talking about 10 years potentially for that. Like, you're just like, man, like, it's just crazy. You hate to, like, see that. You're like, man, that could be, like, nobody is, you know,
that could be anybody.
That could be anybody. Like, I mean, this is her right now, just in this situation, and you're just looking like, okay, you hope for it to end soon, you pray, but man, like, you just don't know. It's a lot of not knowing.
And just a quick side note too, Ani, like, so they end up releasing, like, Russia released, a U.S. soldier that they had, but they only really released him because he got sick, and they just didn't want him to die in a Russian prison or whatever. I think they said he got TB or I don't know, something like tuberculosis or something like that. But basically they only let him go because they were like, okay, we're not going to let him die here. Like, we're going to send him home and whatever. But that was legitimately the only reason. So my thing is, like, this is really bad and it's scary.
Chelsea, let's talk a little bit about something that you would know more than me and Ani about. And obviously we had Chloe Wells as a guest on a few episodes ago, talking about her Russian experience, her being a California girl and growing up here and playing in Russia, and glad that she came back. But have you guys talked internally about any of the girls or the girls who go overseas? Like, yo, look what's happening with Brittney. Now, maybe you know your country where you're going to go in Israel for the 10th year safe, but have any other girls said, I'm not sure I want to go back right now or this next coming year? Like, I'm going to chill out to see what happens.
I mean, I think it's not so much internal, like our agents and stuff like that. Like, certain places, it's not an option to go there anymore. So despite, even if you wanted to go to Russia, Russia's not having a league, and we're not bringing any Americans there regardless. So that basically eliminates Russia. So if you've already seen a lot of the top Russian or top WNBA players that play in the Russian league, they're already signing in other places. Ali Quigley, Courtney Vandersloot, they're signing in Finner now in Turkey. So the Russian league is dead, at least as far as Americans being there and going. So I don't even think, it's not a secret. Agents are coming out and saying it's not an option for you to play here. And it has nothing to do with money. It's just like, we're just not doing it. So there will be no Americans, to my knowledge, in the Russian league unless they have some type of passport. The only person I know that has a passport that's American is Epiphany Prince. She's a vet. She's from New York. She plays on the Seattle Storm. She has a Russian passport. So she's been playing in Russia for a really long time. I haven't got to talk with her about that. I've talked to her a little bit recently, but we talk about shoes and just other stuff.
Sure.
I haven't got to talk to her about if she's even going back, but I can't even imagine her going under the circumstances, just knowing a fellow American is being basically kind of held captive there.
Sure.
But if anybody were to go back, maybe it would be her just because of the citizenship standpoint. But yeah, the Russian league is dead. Same with the Ukrainian league. I mean, obviously, you can't play any basketball there. So, they have Prometi, which is a Euro Cup women's team that, had good players play there last year that actually had success in Euro Cup. So I don't know if the Ukrainian league is strong super collectively, but girls were playing there. So that's out too. So what I've been talking about, which doesn't really affect me so much, but I've been seeing my agent sending messages and stuff to our group chat or whatever, is just how the European landscape is changing, because now a lot of the players that would have taken these jobs in Russia and other places, they're on the market and they're looking for other jobs. And now they're taking, my job or somebody else's job because the job that they're used to is no longer available. So I am already signed, sealed, and delivered to go back to Maccabi Haifa in Israel for my 10th overseas season. So I'm already done. But that was kind of my, want to sign early, because I just know there's going to be some girls, coming up here that are going to be scrambling a little bit because some of the jobs that they may usually take won't be available, whether a better player has taken them or just better players are on the market taking maybe, less money. So it's like, hey, if I can, scrounge up a couple extra thousand to get this girl, this is a different caliber of player than, what we're used to having. And that's what we're going to see the most in the European landscape. Not so much people worried about going to Russia. Like, that's dead. Like, we're just not doing that right now.
Gotcha. So it's going to be a trickle down where the girls go.
Yeah.
That's some really good insight. And we talked about praying and God, hope this thing works out. I wanted to talk to you guys about a serious note about what happened in Buffalo, because we talk about praying, we talk about doing the right thing, and this young man, 18 years old, goes to a black neighborhood and he basically shoots 10 people dead, two Caucasians, 10 African Americans. Again, he's 18 years old. He's coming from 3 hours away. He's live streaming it on Twitch, which is nuts in itself. I mean, I don't know who's watching that, or people. Maybe there's networks of people that follow that kind of stuff, and what is the answer? What do we do from here? We joked over the weekend, Chelsea, about going to a concert. You go into a concert and you had a good time, but even there was a little bit of like hesitation. There was some hesitation on my part. I was thinking about going to two, and the person I wanted to go with, she just kind of didn't really want to go. She's, I'm a little afraid of big crowds, and people are afraid of big crowds, even just because of COVID. The anxiety of getting back into the mix with a lot of people in public places. So regardless of the shooting, there's still more anxiety. So this brings even more anxiety. And then you see these pictures that it's heartbreaking, because the one lady was 86, one lady was 72. What are you guys thinking? And what is there any solution we have here?
I mean, it's all messed up, man. I mean, I was talking to my guy Alex, and it was 10 minutes from his the shooting was 10 minutes from his place. He said his girlfriend called him and she was like, "Hey, look at the news," and she was like, "Why look at the news?" He said, "Yo, there was a shooting at Tops, 10 minutes from his house, and just all hear over sirens for hours." You seen the video, which I regret that I even watched that. I mean, bro, I don't know what the solution is. Honestly, to me, sometimes when you see stuff like that, it's wicked and evil, but I feel like it's going to inspire someone else to do something down the road, and that's like the alarming part is I feel like stuff like this inspires somebody to go one up him.
Okay.
And I think it's more, I don't know what the solution is, but we got to prevent that from happening. Because that was sick. I mean, it was just racially motivated. The fact that he would live stream it and do that, I mean, it's just like I don't know. Like,
hard to comprehend. Yeah. Hard to come up with a quick answer. What do you think, Chelsea?
I mean, I don't think that there's a solution. And I honestly don't think that things are going to change. And the one thing I've noticed about myself, which is terrible, is I have become so desensitized to some of the things that are happening. Like, my heart breaks for the family and the victims and stuff like that. But next month we'll be talking about somebody else. And that's the cycle of the United States and just how things work. And it's about money and gun laws and politics. And we'd so much rather, have so many protecting amendment rights and all kinds of stuff than kind of addressing the serious problems that we have. And one of the main things is we have domestic terrorism. Forget, we love to talk about Muslims and Arabs and all these people that are, immigrants that are trying to get into the country. But it's like, we have our own problems with people that are our neighbors. Yeah. And we've had those problems and we don't address them. First thing you hear is the kid had a mental illness. Oh, this was an isolated event. No, it's not. This kind of stuff happens regularly. It happens nowhere else. And I've been to a million different countries. It happens nowhere else. The first thing a lot of people say to me is, "Oh my God, you play in Israel? Like, how is it out there?" Like, because they watch the news and they think it's a war zone. I'm safer in Israel than I am here. I promise you, I can go around in Israel and I will have a lesser chance of getting shot up at a movie theater or a grocery store than I do in the United States. Yeah. It happens so much. And I just feel like it has become normal that everybody is just like, yeah, we're sad about it, thoughts and prayers. And then it happens again next month and we repeat the cycle all over again. And that's the part. Like, this would be extreme if it happened anywhere else. I promise you. Like, it would be a big deal. It's not a big deal here. We had a couple shootings in the last couple days. So yeah, that was the biggest one. We're at that store and hate crime, racially motivated for sure, which we love to say that, people say that racism isn't alive and well here and it's isolated, but this kind of stuff is just too normal. It's really the American way and it's sick. So I don't see anything changing because this has been happening time and time again. There will be somebody else, like Ani said, who is motivated by this guy. He had a manifesto. He was brought in and already pled not guilty. Like, he's quoting different people and what he believes is America. And it's unfortunate that he's right. He's quoting Tucker Carlson. He's quoting Donald Trump and what he thinks about preserving white people and their image. Like that kind of stuff is just crazy. And he's not the only one. And there's a lot of people that feel this way. So it's unfortunate, but all you can really do is pray for your loved ones, try to be as aware and safe as possible. But you talked about me. I went to Lovers and Friends yesterday, Ani, which was a huge festival. It was in the fairgrounds in Vegas. Ludacris, Little John, Sierra, like every, pretty much artist from the 90s and, early 2000s that you could think of was pretty much there performing. And you're in this huge crowd of people. You saw what happened last time we had a festival in Las Vegas with the shooting and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's like, you're not safe anywhere. So my mindset, which is terrible, is like, you know what? I'm not safe, going to this concert, and I'm not safe going to the grocery store. So you can live your life in fear, but it's like, I can't not do stuff because there's a chance that anything could happen anywhere. And that is like a terrible feeling, but it's just a reality. So that's kind of where I'm at with the situation. And it sucks, but I don't really know how else to feel any other way.
Wow. Yeah. I'm glad that you're honest and you say you feel you're desensitized. That's a really good point. Like, as you said, you enjoyed yourself. You went. I know you had a little bit of hesitation, but not enough to not go.
I had a great time. And, you're looking up just like, dang, if somebody were to drop a bomb on this place, it's over with. But then the next song comes on and
you forget about that's real.
I'm being honest, and it's terrible. I'm not saying that it's okay, but I'm telling you, this is my thought process. I look up, I look around for a second, like, dang, this could get bad. And then I continue my night, and I had a great night. I made it home, and
you're here now.
I live to, see another day, and we'll see what happens this week. You just don't know.
Correct. Yeah. The one thing I will say about the desensitization is I have a friend, and she has a young son, and she goes, she got shook up, and she told me, he goes, Mom, I'm going to kill you with a hammer. I'm going to get a hammer and get you and hit you. And she kind of said it like, this boy's watching YouTube and it doesn't sound like you said that. We've said that. We probably all three of us have said that when we were kids a little bit, probably me less because my mom and dad didn't play.
Yeah, that would not be acceptable.
No, I know we didn't say that, but we said funny little things, but the kids say that stuff more often now. But she didn't think it was very funny. And she goes, he's watching YouTube and getting these stories and these things that there's literally segments and videos out there where it tells, like maybe in a cartoon form, where it tells kids to kill their parents. And like people are watching that. Kids are watching that. And she's like, Mom, I'm going to get you with the hammer. And it wasn't like a joking statement. Funny statement, like a little kid watching a TV. So it's very scary. But so I think that's where the desensitization starts, when it's very young, because I didn't have that, and I know you guys didn't have that too much either. There was I couldn't really say nothing like that, and I didn't joke around. I never thought to joke around when my parents are older, even any older people in the neighborhood. And I kind of came right at the end of school corporal punishment. So when I was in kindergarten, first and second grade, the teachers still could hit your ass. You know what I mean? Like jack you up. So you have this kind of like this respect for elders and just this whole different community kind of keeping kids in line. They keep us in line like the next door neighbors and stuff. And that's gone, like completely gone. You people don't want to be bothered. And then the COVID made it worse because hey, don't get near me. Don't tell my kid anything. Get over there. And now it's really bad. Like she was a little shook up when she told that. She was like, I want him to hang out with his dad a little more right now. I'm a little mad. She was, because he just said it in a mean tone, and he's watching YouTube at too young.
YouTube is the worst, Ronnie. And there is too much content on YouTube.
Yeah.
Literally.
And then the suggested videos that be popping up, you may not be watching nothing that in regards to what, the video. All of a sudden YouTube will suggest some wild, and you're like, yo.
Yeah.
And then, how we, you just click on that, and all of a sudden we're in a whole different world. And
right.
If we're adults, that's really easy for a kid.
Right.
Yeah, this kid is 4 or 5 or something. You're young, but that's where I'm saying the desensitization starts. So hopefully things turn around. One more thing on that, Ani. Charles Campbell, I don't know if you know Charles. He's been around in basketball. He kind of mentioned that all the places of worship and big churches and congregations in Texas, ironic, everybody's armed up, like they have security. that you're not going to, they may see it less and less in places like that, compared to a place like Buffalo, LA. Is that your experience? Like when when people, your family go to church or places like that, where there's a lot of security and a lot, even like armed security.
Yeah, now church I go to, there's security. There's security. I mean, you got security outside and you got security inside. Just because there's shootings at church. I mean, there's some that don't have it that we fight, but now you're seeing more and more churches that have multiple security. Just because you can walk in, you can walk in, anyone can just, obviously it's a place of worship, but you just never know people's intent.
Which means nothing, Ani. It being a place of worship. We've seen churches get shot up too. And that's my point. No place is safe. Literally, unless you are in the confines of your house and hopefully somebody doesn't come there. But there's no place here that is safe for us. Wow. Like, how sad is that? You can listen. We can go down the mass shootings, Ronnie, and something has happened everywhere. A park, a grocery store, a movie theater, a church, a school. Like, where are we supposed to not go anywhere, Ani? What are we supposed to do?
Gotta live our life. I mean, like you said, you can't in fear, but it's messed up that because in the back of your mind, like I remember I was in New Orleans, I was in a large crowd. I was at this that had something going on, and I was like, yo, someone could just shoot up. Kill about 50 people, and it's messed up that we think that way. But it's just the reality is like, oh, this is where we at. Like, man, I wonder what someone's thinking today.
It's a scary thing, but like you said, we move forward and we'll continue to move forward. Let's jump into what we want to talk about, a little bit about ball, Ani. We know you went to some events last week, to Buff's event, Who Wants to Smoke, and we're going to talk about high school underclass All-American team. We're going to have a guest on, Paul Hernandez. He went to a couple events from 6-1 Hoops Live. He's a California guy, and he covers a little bit off the beaten path, the guys that are a little lower level. We talk about, these hubs of basketball where there's great players. Obviously, we are in Dallas is one, LA is another one. Obviously Chicago and places like that, but he covers the Central Valley in California, where players fight to get on the right travel teams, make the right moves, get themselves exposure, get in front of college coaches, things of that nature. So, Ani, did you go anywhere this past week, or were you just at Buffs last week and then gearing up for Memorial Day and Pangos and things like that coming up?
Yeah, I was just at Buffs last week. This week, I kind of did some site directing. There was a Prep Hoops had a girls event. So I went and actually watched some girls. Obviously I'm not a girls basketball evaluator, but I got to see good girls basketball. So it was good. It was very interesting to see the difference always, like how the girls move the basketball compared to the guys. Some just like the coaches don't. I saw so many less like coaches getting in a rest face compared to I see
That's a good thing.
Yeah, like it was like I was just watching. I was like, damn, like it's a difference. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know. I saw more of like pure basketball. I mean, I saw a lot of high level talent at Buffs event, but like you just see there's just a difference. You just see the difference. The less of a use is like more using skill and feel a lot more compared to just using natural. Like we see a kid now, just an athlete, talented, but not a basketball player per se. I saw a lot of basketball players this past weekend, I would say.
Yeah, I would think overall, when you just look from top to bottom, honestly, there's a good event like Buffs event or some of the events we're going to go to but if you look at the average just events, the girls are getting a better experience and they're getting a better bang for their buck, for sure. They're learning more. They're getting better faster. I think we've talked about that before. And as this NBA playoffs has gone on, you mentioned your guy, Luka. You're riding with Luka. That experience he had growing up and the one Giannis had probably and Embiid going through the basketball without borders, things like that. Those guys are getting a better experience. Like, what is happening in American boys grassroots ball? Like, I mean, we should have a whole episode about it, really. Like what's happening, because in essence, as we're trying to find the next Michael Jordan, we've killed the next Michael Jordan. In essence, the last 20 or 30 years, we're looking for the next Michael Jordan, and the way he came about, it's not going to happen again. So we've in essence killed him before we even had a chance. And I think that's what makes LeBron so special. Like, he had all the pressures of that, and he lived up to it. Really, I mean, he's really one of the only guys. We can name 1,000 guys on here. We can talk about it. I can name 1,000 guys that are supposed to be the next, and it hasn't happened. So I'm glad the girls get the good experience. We'll talk about that too, especially if the Dallas Mavs get by Golden State.
There's no way, Ani. There is no way. And Luka is going to be incredible. And I'm here for the Luka show. I'm telling you, I am absolutely here for the Luka show.
I think Chelsea likes Luka a little more than she's letting on.
No, I love Luka. Don't get me wrong, but I have to be realistic.
Yeah.
The Warriors are going to be sitting down and playing defense. Draymond going to be throwing some illegal screens and all kinds of stuff, and they're going to win.
Interesting. Yeah, they know how to win. We'll see how that goes. So, Ani, talk a little bit about some of the better players you saw at Buff's event, and maybe a couple of the guys that surprised you or made a name for themselves.
Yeah, I thought Xavier Booker, who played for George Hill, elite, 6'10". It's crazy. A kid like him, I think the highest ranking was 90th. And I think 24/7 has him 90th. 6'10" lefty, can shoot it, agile, put the ball on the floor, finishes above the rim. He was the best player in the gym. Top 5 nationally ranked. I mean, he's going to be a top 5 player in that class. I was talking to some guys that work on some of those national outlets, and I was like, man, you can't tell me there's 5 players in the country better than him, and they agreed. Just crazy. Like, I don't know if he's a late bloomer or something like that, but a kid with his size and ability and the way he moves, it's just very surprising that, there's some that don't even really know who he is or didn't even have him in the top 150. I thought he was the best player in the gym. It just it was really incredible. Another kid, Dennis, I forgot the first name, 7'1". Yeah, 7'1", elite shot blocker. I think he's still 17 or hasn't turned 17 yet. I think he turned 17 in the summer. Block shots, like at his peak. I saw him make a couple threes. I don't think that's really what he does right now, but the shooting is there. Him and Xavier Booker went at each other, and it was just like the Battle of Goliaths. I was very impressed with him. His team, who they're just kind of an independent team, had a few pieces around him, but they competed against EYBL teams and other shoe company teams, and he was just a real dominant force in the paint. He's still raw in some areas, which you would imagine a 16-year-old 7'1" kid, but another kid that I think you can't tell me there's 25 players in the country better than him.
Wow.
It just, it was incredible. Like, seeing guys like him in environments like that, like, the truth just gets told, right? Like him and Xavier Booker. But I thought Dennis was really good. A kid that kind of came out of nowhere. He's a Sudanese kid, Gawal Dang. Goes to Carmel High School in Indianapolis. Didn't start for his high school team this year. 6'3", athletic guard. Just picked up an offer from Arizona State. TCU just offered. Gets downhill, finishes above the rim, defends with long arms. I think he has like a +3 wingspan. It was incredible that the kid didn't even start for his high school team. You can't tell me that there was. I mean, I want to see who was the guard ahead of him. Like becoming a high major basketball player. I mean, you got the SEC schools that have been calling me about him, Big 12. Yeah. I mean, Pac-12. I got a lot of calls about that kid, and he just kind of came out of nowhere. Another kid, 3D Empire, another Sudanese kid. His name is Qual Attack. He goes to Haltom City out in Fort Worth. First time I saw him, I was actually where they had the event. There was 2 back gyms, which I like going to the back gyms. I always want to find there's always a diamond
talent.
There's always a diamond rough in the back gyms, and that's where I saw him about 6'7". Said the mom reportedly 6'7". Uncles are 7'3".
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it. smooth with it. Had a game, made 6 3-pointers. There's a little hitch on the shot, but he can improve. Moves well, good footwork. Seen like one-legged fades in the mid post, and kind of tag left and right with crafty finishes. He's skinny, very skinny. He needs to get stronger, but just a kid. I was like, yo, like, where's this kid come from? I walked to his coach during the game. I'm like, who the hell is this kid? Like, he just like, yeah, it's quality attack. He grew like 3 inches this past year, and you can tell he's growing. You see the knee bands, like you see the bands on his knees. You see the arms. See how he kind of still kind of moves awkwardly. But I thought he was like the hidden gem. I told a lot of coaches about him. I thought he's a high major prospect. I mean, obviously you look at him, he's skinny, gets pushed around some, but he plays hard, and yeah, I was just really amazed that, that's why I love going to the back. People, like, I love my job, like obviously going to evaluate and seeing kids, seeing Xavier Bookers, and, there was Ron Hollins and Isaiah Collier, who are, 5-star guys. But, when you see the kids like him, that's what makes the job exciting for me, is just seeing that, because you kind of have to see beyond the obvious on those type of situations. So yeah, those were my standouts. I mean, there was other. I mean, it was loaded. Jace Posey for Houston Hoops is really coming along. JoJo Tugler for Hoops, a 6'8" forward that Kansas State just offered, getting better. LeVon had a couple pieces. Wesley Yates was really good. Chris Johnson was good for JL3. This little situation, but he was good. I mean, he looked like a high major prospect. It's kind of down to I think Arkansas, Kansas. I think Tennessee's kind of getting involved in some of the situations. Just committed to Montverde. But I would say the one thing about Bus Event that was interesting, I saw probably like 5 different prep schools. Link Your
recruiting players.
Yeah, recruiting players. Link Your Academy, Southern Cal Academy, Oak Hill. I saw like 2 others. There's guys that are walking in, they don't even have the polo on. They trying to get it done. They're just kind of sitting in the bleachers trying to get it done. So you had a lot going on. There was a lot of talent. I mean, there was a handful of guys. I mean, more than a handful of guys that just really, really got stuff done. But it was interesting. You see like Trey Young's in the building. Corey Maggette, he has a team. I didn't know he coaches a team. Yeah, you saw a lot of guys. Jermaine O'Neal's coaching his Drive Nation 15 team. But it was good. Bus Event was really, really good. You saw really a lot of good evaluation games that you normally probably wouldn't see like in early May. So yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah. Speaking of evaluation, we're going to bring on our guest Paul Hernandez now. Like we said, you mentioned diamonds in the rough and guys you like to see, and that's who he likes to focus on here in California and beyond, and especially guys that are not in the metropolitan area. So let's bring on Paul now. Paul, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me, Ron?
Yep, I can hear you. Appreciate you jumping on in the Paint Show here with me, Chelsea and Ani. Thanks for your time. Hey,
Paul.
Paul, just talk about Ani was talking about he went to Bus Event two weekends ago. Just talk about the event you went to last week and the recent events, and just kind of what you're gauging out there and what your focus is.
Yeah, so this weekend I was in SoCal, just kind of popping around different stuff. Went to West Coast Elite, had their collision. I think it's an event they're trying to do with the New York Jayhawks, kind of like a coast-to-coast type thing. So Jayhawks were there, which was that was intriguing to watch. There's some good games there. And then I went over on Saturday, I went by Assumption Greek Church. Dino's had his Pango's Best of SoCal showcase.
Sure.
Checked out a few games there. I just went for like the 23, 24 games, some of the upper class stuff. I should have went for the 25 game because apparently Tunde and Giovanni Ruff were killing it.
Yeah.
But didn't make it to those. And then I went to the yesterday I went by Open Gym Premiere and caught some of the stage Act 3 with a lot of the Adidas teams and stuff like that. Watched Compton Magic, Dream Vision. Specifically went there to watch players play. Really like the sophomore kid they have there, Carmichael. So it was good. Hold on. Sorry, bell's ringing for the next period.
No problem.
But it was good. Like, trying to get around the 3 different events. You know what I mean? It was good. Got there Friday, so I was able to watch some stuff Friday night, Saturday, and then into Sunday. And just a lot, like you guys were mentioning, I was listening in for like the last 10 minutes. A lot of good talent out there. Some of it's under the radar. I think there's so many events occurring on a weekly basis that it's kind of, you've got to be in the right position. But a lot of scouts out too. I didn't see a lot of coaches out necessarily, but definitely a lot of scouts out in the mix at the 3 different events over the weekend. So that was good.
Nice. Paul, so are you focusing right now while you're out and about, like on seeing new teams and new players, or are you kind of just trying to get updates on players from your main coverage area, the Central Valley? Like what's your primary focus at this time?
This time of year is fun. It's a little bit of both. I try to get the schedules from all the club teams, like the relevant club teams in the Central section.
Okay.
There's about 4 or 5, that have quality players and that have like a bunch, like 4 or 5 at least good players in their programs. And so I try to do a little both. I try to figure out where their schedules are at, and then I try to kind of network with them as far as, if they're going to be in SoCal, if they're going to be in Vegas, and then try to get to some of the stuff that they're at. But at the same time, I also like to use this time of year to evaluate and scout just other talent around. You know what I'm saying? SoCal talent, Western region talent, so Vegas or Nevada, Arizona, the Northwest region, Utah. Seen a lot of kids from Utah that are really good the last last month and a half. So it's a little bit of both. And I think for me, it's important to do that because if I'm just focusing on kids in the Central section, my eye for talent will be distorted. You know what I mean? I don't have a comparative lens to look at it through. So I really try to use this time of the year outside of the traditional high school season, the spring and summer, to do a little bit of both, to scout guys, to see, who are the guys out and about that are doing stuff from the Central section. How are they doing when they're playing against kids from bigger areas, right? Like bigger cities, the SoCal area, playing against, higher quality club teams. And then also at the same time, try to get a chance to see some of the guys that I want to see too, some high level hoops. And so it's a blend of both. And then I really enjoy this time of year because I think this is critical for me to be a better scout and evaluator in the Central section. This is a time of year where I really got to sharpen those skills. So spending a lot of time talking with guys like Frank Burleson, Dinos, talking with Ronnie a lot, whether it's on the phone or at events, and trying to pick their brains in the process. So it's kind of a little bit of 3 things, really, focusing on local players, focusing on players outside of the region, but then also networking with the people that have kind of helped me get to where I'm at right now, and to kind of keep sharpening those skills so that my eye doesn't get distorted by just watching basketball in Central California.
Nice.
So when you basketball in Central California, has there been how would you say this 23 class are compared to the previous years? Like, how would you say as far as talent and depth? How many Division I basketball players would you say there is?
Yeah, so I would say if we go back just 2 years ago, right, 2021, there was quite a few D1 guys. You had Paul Anderson, who was at Santa Barbara. You had Jaden Geron from San Joaquin Memorial, who's at Rice University. And you kind of go down the list. Even a guy like Cedric Coward, who was at Central, he went D3, but after a phenomenal freshman campaign last year, now he's at Eastern Washington. So that 21 class had a lot of guys, that are playing at the Division I level, or at least had opportunities, maybe are D2, but in that process. For the 23 class, I would say right now, there's not really a guy that's kind of separated at that Division I. There's some borderline guys that are D1 guys. JJ Howard, Jamar Howard from Mission Prep, I think is kind of a borderline guy. Mike Davis Jr. at San Joaquin Memorial is another borderline guy. But as far as kind of who's at that, that level of really getting that recruitment, I think also what you're seeing is a lot of these guys, because of the lack of exposure they get throughout the regular high school season, right? Are really kind of looking at, all right, this club season is going to be critical for me to kind of jump up those levels of being maybe a Division II recruit or prospect that actually should be more of a Division I low major guy, and trying to kind of jump up that scale because they're coming off that last AAU season last year. It was kind of all jammed together. Let's try to get as much exposure as possible. I think some of those 23 guys in the Central section kind of lost out on that. So does that get at the question that you were asking?
Yeah, no, that did. Because I just want to see like we talk a lot about me and Ronnie talked about like 22 class. We feel like it's a little bit more deeper than the 23 class.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing here in the central section. The depth, and I think and I think Ronnie and I have talked about this before. I know I've talked about it with Frank, but as far as the prep school move, right, and the move to the academies and prep schools, I think you're seeing talent kind of dwindle at the high school level across the board in Cali, and we still have so much talent that it's still a lot of talent in the high school systems. But I've definitely seen it in Central California since the last couple of years. I think it's a lack of access to gyms throughout COVID. I think it's maybe a lack of access of knowing where to play, what right events to be in during the season. I think that's a huge problem for Central Section players, is being in the right spots, right times, and knowing. I mean, there's so many events. I know Ronnie and I talked about this a lot with regards to the live periods. The second live period in SoCal, you had 6 events in one weekend. How do you pick which one's good? You know what I'm saying? Which is the best one to be at? So I think that's kind of a trickling down effect to the smaller media areas like the Central Section. You're just not seeing the players developed as much as they were a couple of years ago, and also having that kind of platform to be on to even increase their value as prospects. It just hasn't really been there. And so I think there's a little bit of suffering. I don't think the talent levels is deep, but I think they've missed some opportunities the last couple of years. So it's playing a catch-up game, I think, is a little bit of the issue too.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's very similar to like Central Texas here with the San Antonio, Austin area. Every time we have like a top-level player like Zayden High, who's going to be probably a top 75 player in the country, he's left to go to AZ Compass. Yep. Would you say it's true where if you have a kid that's going to be a high major player or, like 4 or 5 star kid, is it safe to say that you'll probably lose them? Because in Central Texas, that's very common, especially if we got that in the 21 class. Yeah,
I think yes, but I'm hoping Joseph Hunter set a good trend. You know what I mean? Joseph Hunter was the kid that everyone looked at like, okay, he's going to bounce. Jalen Green left, going for his senior year to go to Prolific Prep. And Joseph was kind of that next dude that was in that top 100 category that had options. And I know he had 3 or 4 different prep school options. I think he had even taken a trip down to AZ Compass to kind of do a visit. And then he decided to stay local and decided to play for, San Joaquin Memorial's senior year. The decision to stay at Fresno State instead of taking some of his other offers, I think, is another factor that I'm hoping becomes kind of like where we don't have our top 1 or 2 guys make that decision. But also the reality is the Division I talent pool in the Central Section is not really there, right?
Okay.
We don't have the D1 guys. Now, if we start looking down the road a little bit, there are some 25s that I would say might be in that category. One of them being Tunde Yusufa from St. Joseph's. Now, his living situation may prevent that. I don't know. But he's a kid right now already. Ronnie I think you guys had him for Cal High as freshman of the year, correct?
Yeah, he's freshman of the year. Yep.
Showed up to Dinos' event the other day, put up 42. He's a kid that I would be like, okay, he may be one to leave. The other one I would say may have the game and the statistics to be there in a couple years would be Julius Olaranju, who goes to Kalinga High School. 6'5", really, really talented kid. However, they're even hesitant on going to San Joaquin Memorial, being a little bit too much out of the way. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But I think for every area, small market, big market, the attraction, the allure seems to be there for all the kids, So I think we're all kind of big market or small market. I think it's a threat to our top high school kids as they progress through.
Sure.
Paul, I liked what you said about just kind of being in the right place at the right time. And that's kind of the most important thing. So I'm just curious, what do you feel is the most important thing that you can do to personally help the kids in your region? Just it being not a main media hub, maybe you're not, getting the same exposure. Well, what do you feel that you can do just to kind of help those kids or to, push them and get them going where they need to go?
Yeah, so the last couple of years have been really helpful. I coached club ball and I coached high school basketball. And then before that, junior high basketball. So I've been coaching for about 8 or 9 years or so. And then the last couple of years with club basketball is when I kind of started seeing I didn't have another group. I was kind of falling out of love with the grind of coaching club basketball, but also I started doing a lot of more media stuff, and I started just going to events on a regular basis and building a rapport with a lot of the scouts and media people. And so for me personally, I feel the things that I can do to help assist in that process is one, getting names to the people that matter, getting players' names. So just so the names are out there. So when Ronnie's doing his rankings for Cal High, getting him here's 4 or 5 guys for this class, for that class.
That helps.
Doing my own rankings in the central section as a way to kind of build, so the 25th guy, he's not going to get any recognition outside the area, but the top 5 or 6 may, and then they may crack a list, whether it's a Prep Hoops ranking, whether it's a Cal High ranking, or any of the other rankings that are done. Now you've got kids' names being in there, and then also passing names along, so that if I'm not able to be at an event, that's a profile event, but I know Ronnie's going to be there, or I know Frank's going to be there, or I know Devin Uglin's going to be there, or Dino's, one of those guys going to be there. I can send them a list of guys, so at least those names are getting passed on. And then I think the most important thing that we've started doing the last year is hosting events here in the central section, but also doing them, whether it's in collaboration with, or doing them in like the top players getting an invite, getting a paid for invite to a bigger event in a bigger market area, right? So we did our junior, freshman, sophomore showcase back in August, and the top player got a discount to go to Dinos's and Etop's Pangos all best of all West Frosh Off camp, right? So using that as a way to kind of leverage those guys to get into bigger events, but also I think having the events here in the central section, but providing the things that are at the quality event. So live stream, right? Having doing post evaluation write-ups and things like that for the top players. Having the media there, so you got the mixtape environment involved as well. Having those same things that you see at the events that matter, just on a smaller scale. And what I like about that in the central section is we can get our top guys to compete, but they're not having to compete against the big names that they would be competing against down in Southern California or in Vegas. Not saying they don't need that, because they need that also. They need to put their games up against those kids. But, if a kid's a sophomore from, let's say, Fresno, right, and he's never done any showcase individual stuff. He's never done an individual event like a Pangos event or a West Coast Elite event or one of Freitas' event, these individual camps and showcases that have a lot of, prestige behind them. And they go down their first time as a sophomore in high school, and they're going down to LA. They're going to go up in an event, and Ronnie and I have talked about this, and we all know this. We can probably top 30 before the event even starts, right? Or at least have a list of people most likely to be. So then a central section kid's going down there, and they're not just competing against the game of the players; they're competing against the name of the players.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So, we all know that the different hot spot areas. Those top kids are at every single event. So it's not just the politics of it, it's the name recognition and the face recognition that kids in the smaller markets are up against. And if they don't start doing these showcases at a younger age, and it's hard selling that to parents, because the parents look at it like, man, it costs this amount of money or it costs that amount of money. But my sale to them is, okay, but if you don't start doing these things until they're in high school, you're going to be going down to these events or going over to these events where the established names are already there. Yeah. And your kid's going to have to do something spectacular just to even
be even looked at.
Yeah. So it's kind of building like a bridge between stuff we do here and with the bigger platforms outside of the area, and keeping that kind of connection going and that networking going in order to really get kids outside in this area, outside of the area, to get them some name recognition.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, Paul, you just mentioned basically word of mouth and just kind of how you're kind of spreading your information. So I'm just curious, would you give that same advice to travel ball coaches? I know you talked about, telling the parents what needs to be done. Like, what advice do you think the travel ball coaches, is it the same kind of thing? Just kind of spreading the word about their players. What can they do to get their kids to school?
Yeah, I think there's there's a variety of avenues now, and I've seen some things on social media. They're jokes / not jokes, but I mean, if you don't have some sort of media content helping promote your players at this point, I'm not saying you have to go out Compton Magic style and have a whole production crew, because not most people. Right. But if you can, you can. I mean, mean, that's what separates the elites from everybody else, right?
Mhm.
But at this point, like Players plays a good example, right? From San Diego area that Sterling Jones is running right now. He's got some really quality sophomores in his program. Ryan Eno, 6'8" kid. Carmichael, the kid from Oregon, who's just kind of really bursting on the scene. But they've got media people following, right? So some of the local clubs that I've helped try to help out the last few years, try to help them with scheduling. I think that's huge, right? The schedule that they put in front of their players as a way to present, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. And as an independent program, you got wiggle room. You don't have to be tied to doing all West Coast Elite events or doing all Pangos events or doing all Hoop Circuit events. You have the ability to kind of bounce around a little bit. So I think that's huge, kind of like working with them to help them build schedules. Also, again, try to help them understand. And so Fresno Wildcats is a program that's doing a really good job right now of what you're talking about, right? Is the first couple of live period events in April, they did West Coast Elites the first live period, and they had AC from Beach City Hoops record, 4 or 5 of their top guys and put out mixes about those 4 or 5 top guys. So now they're trending from the event, but they're not coming from Fresno Wildcats media account. They're coming from West Coast Elites media and then City Hoops on the bottom, right? So that's a bigger level platforms promoting players from a small market, right? I think that's a huge. And Mike Potts is the one who runs that program. He reached out before the event and probably had to come out of pocket a little bit on that. You know what I mean? And probably financially a little bit of a setback in the short term, but then you see what it's doing for the players he's able to get in his program this year for his 16s and 15s. He's building for the future. I think little things like that. And then also making sure that, something as simple as when you're doing events during the live period and they're asking for rosters, make sure the numbers match. You know what I mean?
Basics. Yeah, that's good.
You know what I mean? You get to an event, and I'm lucky because there's a team from the Central section that, man, their numbers were all over the place from the first live period. I'm fortunate because I know most of the kids, but I'm sitting with, a few other scouts and they're like, who's this, who's that? The numbers don't match. And, luckily I'm there to feed that information.
To help them. Right.
If I'm not, now you're looking at, okay, maybe 1 or 2 kids get some actual looks from that team. So I think the little stuff like that doesn't seem like it matters necessarily, those little things we all know matter a ton. You know what I mean? Because if I've got to search for a kid who, you had mentioned those under the radar guys, man, we all want to find them. You know what I mean? I'm fortunate to be in a market full of them. But at the same time, we get to a bigger event. If their stuff is not documented accurately, what college coach is going to take time out of their busy schedule to go find and chase a player down? Hey, what's the right information? You know what I mean? So that may be a blown opportunity right there. And you're already in a market that provides less opportunities. We can't afford to trick off any opportunity, let alone something as simple as making sure the numbers match.
Yeah. Paul, it's funny you said that. I want to put any of you guys on the spot. Why do you think a college coach at any level is just too cool or too big to go to the scores table and check the notes? Like, I mean, they're just not going to do it. They're going to ask you, Ani, they're going to ask somebody else, or they're just going to forget about it. They're going to be like, I'm sorry, I'm going to go watch another game. Like, they're not going to do it. Why? I don't know why that is, though. They just –
I think some of them think that, like, when the numbers are all wrong or if they don't have the rosters in the book, that they may – sometimes they feel like it's speaking to the character of like the coach, or maybe they have to deal with the coach or those players, and that's not the type of player or person that they want to deal with as far as in the recruiting process. So I mean that's one reason. Another part, slight laziness.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like lazy.
Yeah.
But I do know, like, hearing from some coaches, like, he didn't have the roster in the book, he don't care, then why should I care?
Yeah.
But it's laziness too.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit of both. But Paul, one more question and we'll let you go. What 2 or 3 guys you think from the Valley are being overlooked? I know you talk about there's not a lot of D1 right now where we're looking down to 224 and 225, especially more. But give us 2 or 3 names that you think are, college should watch a little bit more, and we'll try to get their names out there.
Yeah, the guy that I really feel is a true D1 guy is Jamar Howard, JJ Howard. I think from Mission Prep High School. He was in NorCal, I think his freshman year, put up great numbers. This last season at Mission Prep, I mean, he averaged in the mid-20s, multiple games over 30. He's playing with West Coast Elites NorCal 17U Under Armour team right now. He's been putting up great numbers there. It's obviously a lot of talent on that team as well. But J.J. Howard, I mean, that kid is an athletic freak of nature, phenomenal football player, great track and field guy right now as well. But as far as just the kid has a knack for scoring and does things on the court, just the motor is insane at 6'6", perimeter guy. Another kid is goes to Stockdale High School here in Bakersfield is Jace Boston, 2023 combo guard, 6'3". Had a really good weekend this last weekend at the West Coast Elite event in Garden Grove. The kid can just do a little bit of everything. He was forced to play the point guard role this last year because their starting point guard was out for a majority of the season, and he just really kind of flourished in his role, but just has a lot of great skill attributes as a combo guard that could be a lead guard. And then I think another guy too, 2024, I think you've seen him before, Ronnie, is Ripon Gill. Goes to high school, about 6'4", 6'5". He played in some of the really good camps in middle school. He did like the CP3 camp in Pasadena that year that was really good. The kid's just got a great all-around game. I think those three are the main three. And then Jaden Hare is also another guy in a small market, 6'6 plus, real physical, wing forward kind of kid. Goes to Hanford West, you know what I mean? Just stuck in a market. He is playing with Rock for ICANN. He's had a pretty decent AAU season, but he hasn't been like their main guy. But he's another one that just, I don't know if he's D1, but I think he would be an instant impact D2 guy pretty much anywhere he goes. And then lastly is the kid, 2024 kid from Sierra, Logan Kilbert. Put up great numbers this year. I've seen him twice now through the club season. It's 6'2"-ish, plus, can do anything you need him to do with the ball in his hand. Good facilitator, shoots the three ball well. So those five are probably the ones. But I say J.J. Howard's probably the kid I think I would be really surprised if he doesn't leave this summer with multiple Division I offers. I really would, just based on what he's able to do and still has room to improve. I mean, that's the thing with him is you're going to get 30 points a game right now, and you're going to get all kinds of steals, defensive turnovers, block shots, great dunks, all the athletic stuff, and yet he still hasn't even fully blossomed as a true perimeter player, ball handler. He's got so much room to grow there. I think that guy is a guy at 6'6" with his ability to do what he can do. I think is looking to probably be maybe the top prospect in the 23 class.
Wow.
Great. Well, we appreciate it, Paul. We appreciate your input. Let people know where they can catch you on social media and online, and we'll let you go.
Okay, so Instagram, pretty straightforward, 661_hoops_live. And then on Twitter, which is a lot of the content, just basketball stuff, individual player posts would be at @P_33 on Twitter. And then if you just look up 661hoops, it eventually will pop up, and you can just click that too on Twitter, one of the two.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for your input.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Ron, I'll be in touch.
Bye. Paul's very fired up about talking about kids from his area.
Yeah.
It's really good because a few people have asked me, there's this big, basically the grapevine in California, which is from Bakersfield on up through the Bay Area. There's just this big hole, there's not a lot of coverage there. There's good players. There's really good players, but you got to go find them, or they usually have to go down in an event. Somebody's got to recommend them for an event. So the problem is that when you have an events like that, or when you have a guy who wants to cover, and I've run across many for many years. They're like, oh, I want to cover events. I want to help Cal High. I want to go to this event. And what they want to do is cover Stanley Johnson.
Right.
and end up talking about, we don't need another guy talking about the top 25 guys, a top 100 player in the country. We need somebody to cover the guys who are not getting looked at as much. So Paul does a great job. He understands his role in that and keeps putting names out there. So yeah, Jamar Howard is really good. He goes to San Luis Obispo. That's just a really beautiful kind of quiet area of California. There's obviously Cal Poly SLO there, which people know. And it's, there's these destination spots like Half Moon Bay and Pismo Beach, and people want to visit them, but there's good players here and there. You just got to find them. I think the kid he mentioned, Tunde Youssef, he goes to St. Joseph, Santa Maria. He's really a top kind of 100 type of guy. And he made my all-American underclass team. So let's transition into that as we close out. Ani, I released the all-American underclass team over the weekend to get it out of the way. As you know, some of the big names, DJ Wagner was the junior of the year. Ian Jackson from Cardinal Hayes, the Whiz Kids, New York Whiz Kids, the sophomore of the year. Cameron Boozer, who plays at Christopher Columbus High School in Miami. I got to see them in the fall and a little bit. He's the freshman there. Obviously, he's Carlos's Boozer's son, and he has another brother. They're both 225. So on that team, Ani, did any name surprise you? Anybody you're interested in seeing, or what was your take of those top guys that are underclassmen?
Yeah, I thought it was fairly accurate. When I saw Cameron Boozer in 2025, I got to see a game. I was just like, yeah, he's, I was with you. I agreed for the most part. Obviously, you had Trey Johnson in there. You had Parker Jefferson, who had a fantastic season at Waxahachie. I seen him go against other high major just guys and more than hold his own during the school season. But yeah, I just agreed with, for the most part, DJ Wagner being junior of the year, especially how he kind of finished that second half of the season. I thought no surprises really. I think the spring and summer are kind of, you're seeing some guys kind of come out a little bit. That I think, like, for the following year, I think can kind of shake up some things some. But I thought for the most part, especially when you talk about just the school season, that was as accurate as you're going to get. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's why I want people to know, if you go to check it out on ballslife.com, that is a production-based team. So you can't just be high on a recruiting list. You had to make an all-state team, an all-region team, maybe be your player of the year in your league. I really did go back and try to do the research, try to get every all-state team I can. Dallas Morning News, all region, LA Times, San Francisco Chronicle, just to get more information. It's very interesting. You mentioned Parker Jefferson, Ani. He wasn't really the top guy, or wasn't looked at as one of the top prospects going into that fresh soft camp in Dallas last year. And everybody's like, well, there's another guy in his travel teams is probably a little better. But like us just seeing him for the first time, we're like, guys, he's 6'9" or so, skilled. He did really good. And everybody was like, well, there's a couple guys that are better. Like, and then he did good in the camp. Like, he did really good in the top 20 game. And then he had a great season. He was a Dallas Morning News Newcomer of the Year. Was that a little surprising? Or did people realize as the season's going on, like, this dude's pretty good?
Yeah, I think when the season went on, you saw people got to see it. It was funny, like during the summer, prior to him going to that camp, he was looking really good in some of these summer and fall league showings. And then when he went to the camp, I mean, I had him rated as him and Jeremiah Green as my top, freshman, like, in Texas. And I thought when he went to the camp, he just kind of showed his versatility, especially at 6'9", to be able to shoot it. And then during the season, like I said, I saw, Case and Wallace and other guys like, they're not as big as him, but I saw other guys try to take the challenge of guarding him. Especially Waxahachie that had a down year, losing the guys like CJ Nolan to Oklahoma and Jalen Lake went to Colorado State. I thought Parker Jefferson kind of, really took a big role as a freshman and had to be guarded by the team's best interior defender, whoever that was, And I thought like most kids would have backed down, and he didn't back down. I saw upperclassmen that wouldn't have no parts in some of the people that guarded him. And he held his own. He has a lot of toughness about him. I think that's one of the underrated part about him is they look at him because he's a skilled guy, like more of maybe you look at him like a stretch guy. You don't think he really has a lot of bite in him. And I think that's completely wrong. I think he has a lot of fight in him. Yeah.
Wanted to ask you this because guys are obviously moving on and there are going to be some changes. We talked about guys maybe trying to stay home and Paul talked about if there's a high level player, he would like to see them stay home, but they're most likely going to move on to an academy type school. So we got Cooper Flagg, who is from Maine, Newport, Maine, Nokomis Regional in Newport, Maine, and he's like the best player ever out of Maine ever, and now he's going to Montverde. He's in his situation. He has to probably leave. Like he's already the best player in the state as a freshman. That's going to be a tough situation for him. There's some other couple guys already moving that have already announced. Marvel Allen is going from Calvary to Montverde. Did you notice any others yet, Ani?
Yeah, and in Texas we have 4. 3 were top 100 guys. Zayden High from Smithsonian Valley is going to AZ Compass. Chris Johnson, who is at Fort Bend Elkins, who's going to Montverde. Gabe Warren, who is He has some high major looks. He's going to, I think, Link here. No, he's going to Southern Cal
Academy with Julius.
And there's another kid that is leaving in Texas. We have 4 kids that Jacoby Walter, who's the top 50 player in the country. He's going to Link here next year. Well. So Texas is a hotbed, not just for college coaches, but for prep schools too.
What is? I saw some of the chatter on Twitter in the last week about that. Jacoby's obviously was at McKinney. What are the coaches taking? Is it like, hey, good for them? But I know they got to feel some kind of way. But what are
yeah, they feel some type of way. But I know Link here. In all honesty, like these guys don't just sweep up in the live period. They've been recruiting these guys while they were playing. Jacoby Walters has been recruited by prep schools. Yeah, like all majority of the season. And as much as it was crazy, like seeing McKinney make this run in the back of mind, like I couldn't really say anything at the time, because I don't know if it's true or not. Like I'm like, man, this kid's probably not going to be back next year. People think McKinney next year, and I'm like, he's probably not coming back. But it's just one of those things. I mean, when you're a public school here, other than Duncanville, when they come in and they're talking about developing and playing here and playing there, and you're at McKinney High School. I mean. Or is it just it's just hard. Like they're sniping kids from all these schools. I mean, at that event alone, I will never share the text messages because most of them I don't even respond to. You know what I mean? But just kids that they're like, what about this kid? Who's his circle? Blah, blah, blah. And so
much questions,
yeah, it's a beast. Like sometimes I just don't respond. I'm like, I didn't see it. I didn't see your text. Like, because one thing about it, I don't want to be the one that's like, hey, you're the reason that kid
you're helping.
Right. And those some prep schools, those my guys. Like I've known them for a minute, but like, correct. I can't get into the middle of that.
Correct. For sure.
So it's just. Yeah, but it's a lot of movement in Texas. I mean, we have 4 right now, and I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, 5 because Jacob Cole is also leaving to link your prep too. So we have 5, and we ain't gotten to June yet.
Yeah, we're not even in June yet. So yeah, go check that out at ballislife.com. Obviously, the Boozer twins, they're in a special situation. If your dad is playing the NBA, you don't have to go anywhere. You can stay. So, but they're really good. Both of them are really. Cameron and Caden are very good, and obviously, it was, Cameron who was the national freshman of the year, and that group of players is really good. Jerry Easter, people have known about for a long time. He mentioned Giovanni Ruff, Paul. He's from Long Beach Poly. He's well known. Tunde's a monster. You'll see him on eventually soon. He's a really good 225, strong. As long as he just develops a little bit of perimeter game, he's going to be really good. He's just 200 pounds, just moves very well. Mm-hmm. So as we wrap up here, Ani, we got to talk about one more kid because I wanted to mention him, and he's going to overtime, and that's Nasir Cunningham, who some people think is the top 224 in the country. I don't think he had the best season in the country. I do think Ian, and I want to get Ian on the pod. Hopefully Ian comes on the pod in the next couple of weeks. But, he's going to overtime, and obviously overtime has been mentioned as a place where it's an alternative to the traditional college basketball to try to make pros, and then the kids were going to get paid as a salary, right? And, that's been said a long time, and overtime finally launched. And then we get that Nasir Cunningham is not going to get paid. So he's not taking a salary in order to preserve his amateur status. Obviously, they're going to try to sign him to NIL deals.
Right.
What's your take when you hear that? And you're going to overtime now, but now you're not getting paid. So then, what is overtime, or what is their trajectory now?
Yeah, it's just you're just playing. You're like it's like a tricky situation because I know they're talking about overtime. Maybe like some of those teams can play in summer ball events like AAU tournaments too. Sure. You sometimes wonder when you hear those things. are you trying to be alternative pro league, or like, is that really what you're trying to do, or is that something you thought that's what you want to do and you're realizing maybe that's not completely what you want to do? For one, I think overtime, like next year, you got the Thompson twins, you got some guys like John Montero. He's going to probably get drafted this year. You got some kids that are going to get drafted, but the reality is you got 30 kids, right? 30, and only 4 getting drafted. Like your percentages are low.
What are you paying the other guys for? Yeah, and now you're not paying Nasir Cunningham, and it's maybe they're changing on the fly. Obviously, NIL's changed it, but my thing, and just be completely honest, if he's going there, he's obviously going to get some NIL deals. He's not going to go there. But if you don't get him the deals, if he doesn't get the deals that he wants, then you're just going to give it to him and say that it was an NIL deal, right?
Basically, pay him anyway.
Right, pay him anyway. That's real. That's real.
Yeah, you that it's under the assumption that it's an NIL deal. So it's a little convoluted to me. I don't know where they're going in the long run. That maybe they can just continue to get good players, but if you're not paying them, you're not a pro league,
right?
If you're not getting paid, and then it gets to the point where, are we going to see, in your opinion, and Chelsea, you could jump into, is it just going to be guys are going to go to academies too, and if you don't have an NIL deal for them, like in college, they're not going to go, or they're going to go to one where they have a quote unquote NIL deal? Is that where we're headed with this, or not? Maybe not.
Yes.
You think so?
I mean, I think so. Everything trends, and everything follows suit from what they see somebody else doing. Sure. Like, even look at something as simple as just commitments. You have kids that make posts for commitments to a prep school or to a high school.
Right.
Like, and they're, we used to only do that for college. Yeah, summer ball team, club team.
Sure.
So everything is heading in that direction. Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't understand the direction of OTE. I mean, I've followed it a little bit. I've seen some kids in there. I've looked at the production in the court, which is very high level. Like, that is very, like, top of the line. So I give them that. But I don't know. It's kind of like glorified AAU to me. I don't really get it. Like, they pay, the guys are good because you have some high-ranked players, but it's like, no. I don't get it, but I see the need for alternatives because that's kind of the direction that we're going. So why not?
And then, I'm not trying to dish the overtime, the overtime league, but like, I watched the playoffs. And the comment, I listened to the comment. I had to put the commentating on. I had to lower the volume. I could not listen to the commentating and watch the game. And I'm just like, if we're trying to try to sell these kids as NBA players, like, I mean,
gotcha.
I didn't think there was a lot of professionalism with it. I mean, as a kid, you want to get viewership. It sounds cool, but I couldn't watch that. Like, I couldn't listen to that. I had muted the whole. I turned down my volume completely down. I couldn't watch the game with the commentating.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I think the reality too is a lot of those kids just aren't NBA players. Sorry, like, I mean, people don't realize how difficult and how good you have to be to get in that league. I mean, all those kids could probably play professionally somewhere. I mean, there's a lot of money to be made in basketball, but like Ani said, like, okay, you have 30 kids and 4 of them are getting drafted, like. Sweet, there's college programs who could get 4 kids drafted, and I'm serious. In the season, look,
right?
Kentucky. I mean, there's certain schools that are going to get 2 or 3, 4 guys in the draft too. So it's the same thing, and at least I can go and get the college environment, and I'm still going to get paid too at this point. So It's like they have to figure out how to. Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know the answer. Like, I'm on the outside looking in. I've watched, I've seen it. They do have some stuff that's, I think that just the facilities and the court and stuff kind of make it a little bit cool. It's a different feel, for certain kids. But other than that, they need to figure out, what they're going to be and how they're going to do it. And maybe not so much market it for, hey, we're going to get you guys to the NBA, because that's not realistic to think that you're going to bring in 30 kids and 30 of them are going to go to the league.
No,
it's not
there's
true.
only 30.
Yeah, like, it's just not. Hey, maybe it's like, hey, we're going to help you become a pro. And maybe that pro, maybe your professional career starts somewhere in Europe. Maybe, I don't know, but I don't know.
Chelsea's like, I don't know. Well, yeah, because the Nasir Cunningham thing's a little different because he's not getting paid, but he's one of the highest ranked players that they have in the system. So, obviously NIL's changed that. So we'll see.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to get paid though. He has the ability to go there and, like you said, he's going to get money regardless in different ways. But that's not going to be the case for these other kids.
Correct. I mean, how many NIL deals are they going to realistically?
Yeah, so they need to not so much use him because he's an outlier. Like, he's not the normal kid. Like, he's going to get this money one way regardless.
Right.
From somebody else under the table to the side, NIL. But he's getting his money, Ani. It doesn't matter. So that's why he doesn't care. And that's why they're trying to, put that out there. But that boy is getting some money. Come on, let's be realistic.
Correct. Yeah. And especially the NIL's changed the expectations of the whole industry and what the top players can get and what they're worth. So that makes a lot of sense. So as we close up, we appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode of the MPIG Show 130. We've done 30 on YouTube, so thanks for the people who watched on YouTube. We've done 100 of them, just audio, as we keep chugging along. So, we have some great points. Go back to listen to some of the older ones that are timeless, some ones that we kind of wrap into what we're talking about today. We touched on a lot of topics. We could keep going, but we got to wrap this up. We got to get out of here, but we can keep talking about all this. We'll hopefully have Ian Jackson on, a couple of these other good young players on. We're going to talk about the NBA draft. Chelsea, you mentioned there's only 30 spots, so we're going to kind of break that down as we get closer to the NBA draft day. We're going to continue to talk about the playoffs. So for Ronnie, me, Chelsea, Ani, we appreciate you guys tuning in to this episode, and thank you, and we're going to get out of here right now.
Bye, guys.